Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. We are continuing on today with Codominance by CurlyStar09, and we are reading chapters 3 and 4 today. Chapter 3, Moving In. Bakugou let out a sigh. He had finally been able to get the little devil down for a nap. He had been fussy most of the day, which he didn't blame him for. The kid had gotten used to having Kirishima around the last couple of days while Bakugou had gotten things together at his place. They had been staying at Kirishima's place for the most part of those days. He had helped his best friend pack his stuff in boxes and decide what they needed at Bakugou's place. They had spent a lot of time together, but the kid was attached to Kirishima, and Bakugou honestly couldn't say anything. He wasn't any better after all. They had decided that Bakugou would be at his place with the baby while Kirishima had his movers at his place. Made it easier to keep the whole situation under wraps. Not only that, but they didn't want the kid to be exposed to too many people. The kid had just gotten used to being around them after all. Not only that, they were supposed to keep him away from the public eye. Bakugou rolled his eyes. It was just a matter of time before everyone found out. It wasn't like they would keep the kid trapped inside his whole life, as the fucking villains did. The medical exam the kid had gone through came back with nothing alarming, but he was slightly underweight for his age, which had been determined to be 9 months. The thought made Bakugou mad. The kid had been in that horrible place being experimented on for 9 fucking months, and no one knew shit about it. Bakugou let out a shaky breath, knowing that he needed to focus on getting settled at home with Kirishima and their kid. Hunting down the bastards responsible for this would have to wait. Deku was trying to coordinate with some others on finding the other villains responsible, trying to decipher the part of the notes they had found that were written in codes as well, which he should be trying to look at as well. He had copies of the notebook on his desk for him to work on. Bakugou made his way to the room that Kirishima would be staying in instead. They had decided that they would have the baby sleeping in either of their rooms for now. The third room in the house was still under construction in order to become a nursery. The painting was almost done, and they were just waiting on the new furniture to arrive. The room saved for Kirishima was empty, and it made Bakugou wonder if Kirishima was really going to be living in the same house as him. They hadn't lived together since UA, and they lived in neighboring rooms to each other in the dorms, always spending the night in each other's room after late night study sessions or hanging out a bit too late to care. He had lost count how many times he had accidentally fallen asleep in Kirishima's bed just to spend more time near the redhead, waking up and trying not to seem flustered by how close Kirishima was laying next to him. He let out a sigh, walking away from his own memories. Bakugou started cleaning some of the furniture in order to leave a clear path to Kirishima's room so it would be easier to get the furniture in. He was about done when his phone rang. He looked down to see an old picture of Kirishima smiling in his picture ID, back from one of their first missions as pros. He couldn't help the small smile that pulled at his lips as he answered, "Hey, Red, almost here." "Almost, Blasty. We had to take a couple of back streets. I noticed some paparazzi. Sorry, this is running later than planned." Kirishima's voice came through a nervous laugh at the end. "It's all right," Bakugou reassured him as he leaned against the wall. "How's our little pebble doing?" Kirishima asked. "The gremlin is sleeping in my room after throwing a fit about being tired." Bakugou chuckled. "Don't call him that." "Then maybe we should actually pick out a name for him then." "How do people pick names for kids? It's impossible. How do you decide a name that will fit someone for the rest of their lives?" Kirishima grumbled for the 100th time. "Don't know. Guess that's why we don't have a name for the Katsuki," Kirishima warmed. "For the lovely angel. You fucking happy now?" Bakugou snapped back, but he was sure Kirishima could hear his smile through the phone. "That's better," Kirishima approved. "I'll be there soon. Once everything is set up, we can look at a baby book or something." "Sounds like a plan." At this rate we're going, the kid should be able to pick out his own name when he turns fucking 10. Bakugou snorted. Don't even joke with that. I'll see you soon, eh? Bakugou chuckled. Almost home, cats. Kirishima answered before hanging up the phone. Bakugou felt his heart race to his throat at hearing those words. Home. Kirishima and Bakugou were sharing a home. Before he could enjoy that thought a bit too much for his own good, a loud cry came from his room. Bakugou let out a sigh as he hurried over. He opened the door, finding the little one laying on his back as he wailed, cheeks already red from the force as well as wet from tears. The black hair standing at odd angles made him look adorable. Hey, little gremlin, Bakugou said as he made his way over, a smile on his face. Don't tell your dad I said that. He scooped the child in his arms, and the crying turned into quiet sobs, his little hands grabbing a hold of Bakugou's shirt. You just don't like being alone, huh? I get that, he told the kid as he made his way out of the room. A hand brushed down soft black hair before placing a kiss on still wet cheeks. Don't worry, I'm here. Bakugou walked around the house with the kid on his hip, trying to calm the child by talking about whatever came to mind. A is coming home soon, and when he does, we need to go hide out in my room till the movers are done. No, we aren't ashamed of you. Just people don't know how to keep their fucking mouths shut when it comes to pro heroes' lives. I shouldn't cuss in front of you. Shit. Wait. Fuck. Bakugou let out a sigh as the kid just stared at him with those big red eyes. If you sell me out for this, I will do absolutely nothing. Bakugou huffed, and the kid hadn't been around for too long, but he already had him wrapped around those little fingers. He was sure it was because of how much he looked like Kirishima. Bakugou groaned in annoyance before handing the baby one of his toys. Time passes. Kirishima made sure the movers worked quickly, leaving everything that didn't need to be set up yet in their boxes. He would deal with that later. All he needed for now was his bed and furniture to be in their place. He was anxious about Bakugou being trapped in his room with the kid for too long, worried that the little guy would start to cry and any given second giving him away. Luckily, it all took a bit under an hour. Once he had ushered the movers out of the house with a string of thank yous, he closed the door. He let out a sigh of relief. Bakugou, they left, he called out as he made his way to the blonde's room, just to almost run into him as he exited the room. Fucking finally, Bakugou grumbled, the baby in his hands making grabby motions towards Kirishima with a wild smile as soon as he saw him. Oi, what the hell? I thought we bonded. Bakugou scowled as Kirishima took the kid into his arms. No cursing in front of the kid, he warned. Hey, Pebble, how are you? Did your dad behave? He said as his attention suddenly engulfed by the kid. He hadn't seen him all day, and it felt like a lifetime if he was honest. Those red eyes that looked so much like Bakugou's already working their magic on him as the kid babbled in his arms. Bakugou rolled his eyes, but a smile was pulling at the corner of his lips. He won't tell you anything. We have a deal, right, kid? He chuckled as he made his way to the kitchen. It was getting late, and the kid hadn't had anything to eat in a while. Oh, so you two are already keeping secrets now, Kirishima chuckled. Bakugou just shrugged. You will never know. We just need to give him a name, by the way. You said we could do that today. Don't remind me, Kirishima groaned before kissing the kid's forehead. The little one was trying to grab Kirishima's long hair as he continued babbling. Pizza tonight? Bakugou offered as he came back with a small container of baby food and a baby-sized spoon. Sounds great. Time passes. How about Hinata then? Kirishima suggested before taking a bite of pizza. They were sitting on the sofa while TV was playing and the news in the background, which neither of them was paying attention to. No, that's horrible, Bakugou told him. He needs a name, cats. Well, none of these names are good enough for him, Bakugou declared. Right, little man? The kid was too busy biting into his shark teething toy to pay much attention to them as he sat between them. Well, maybe if we pick one, Kirishima groaned. Did you never have a name picked out for when you had a kid? He asked, mostly out of frustration. Never thought I would have one, Bakugou answered without any hesitation as he grabbed another slice of pizza. You never thought about having children? Kirishima asked, a hint of disbelief in his voice. Never thought anyone would want to have a kid with me, Bakugou corrected with a shrug, a hand going to move one of the baby's toys away from the edge of the sofa. Guess you had no choice in the matter. Kirishima was quiet for a second, watching Bakugou carefully. I wouldn't have it any other way, Kirishima said, keeping his eyes on how the little one was shaking his teething toy and babbling to himself. He didn't want to see Bakugou's reaction to his words, or for him to see right through them. There was a lot he had wished was different about this situation, but the person he was going through all of this with, there was no other than Bakugou he would rather do it with. At least it's with my best friend, you know? He smiled, looking up to find Bakugou looking at him with an expression on his face he couldn't quite read. Bakugou looked away first, clearing his throat. I've always liked the name Katsuki for a girl, but that's not fucking helpful at the moment. Kirishima felt his heart skip a beat as a soft smile put at his lips. That's actually a really cute name. And people think you aren't a softie. Kirishima teased him with a small shove to Bakugou's arms. Tell anyone and you're dead meat, Red. Bakugou chuckled. You would leave our kid with just one parent? Kirishima gasped dramatically, pulling the baby onto his laps. Look at this face. You want to explain to him why his dad is suddenly gone? I'm sure he'll understand, Bakugou said with a smirk before taking a bite of his slice. Wait, how about naming him after someone? Kirishima questioned. Like who, Red? Bakugou asked with a raised brow. Maybe one of our friends? Kirishima offered, but it sounded more like a question than a suggestion. No fucking way, Bakugou said without hesitation. One of our mentors? They say name your kid after someone you want them to be like, right? Kirishima chewed on his bottom lip as he tried to think of something, maybe naming the kid after Fat Gum or even Aizawa-sensei. I think that would just put a lot of pressure on the kid, eh? Bakugou said with a sigh before finishing off his slice, standing up to put the leftovers on the counter for now. Maybe we should just leave this for later, he said as he headed into the kitchen. Kirishima nodded. They had gone through a whole list of names, and nothing seemed right. I almost forgot, Kirishima said as he stood up to follow him with the kid in his arms. Sero is bringing Riot over tomorrow when the squad comes to visit. Do you really think that's a good idea? Bakugou asked with a sigh. We can't keep Riot and Owl with our friends forever, Cats, Kirishima told him. I know, and Shinso said he would bring Owl tomorrow too, just realizing how much of a fucking shit show this is going to be. Bakugou grumbled as he went back towards the living room to clean off the coffee table where they had been eating. Language, Cats, Kirishima told him with an eye roll. Do you want me to start using fudge or shoot or something? Bakugou groaned. Maybe, at least it would be entertaining. Kirishima chuckled. This is censorship. I don't want his first word to be fuck. Well, it could be shit. You never know, Bakugou said with a smirk. You are the worst, Kirishima said with a pout. Hey, it would make a great story. Bakugou shrugged. Kirishima just let out a sigh, a small smile pulling at his lips as he watched Bakugou put the leftover pizza into the fridge and start washing dishes. What do you think they'll say? Kirishima asked. He had been worried about their friends meeting their kid. Most of all, how would Little Pebble handle so many people at once? They were trying to keep it quiet, so much so that he hadn't been able to tell his moms that they had a grandchild. Not only that, he was sure Mina had a lot to say about their new living arrangement. All of them would. No clue, but make sure the kid isn't squashed by Mina, Bakugou said, turning towards Kirishima and giving the kid a smile. Also, don't let Denki carry him. Okay, fair point. Denki would probably drop him. Kirishima agreed with a laugh, the kid looking up at him in curiosity. A part of Kirishima knew that the little pebble was already loved by their friends, even though they hadn't even met him yet. Time passes. So, Bakugou started as he rubbed the back of his neck. They had finished giving the kid a bath that involved a lot of splashing. The kid was tiny, but somehow managed to get both of them drenched from head to toe. Bakugou had been able to sneak away to change while Kirishima changed the gremlin into pajamas. Where's he going to sleep tonight? With you or with me? The kid nestled calmly against his chest, tired out of his bath, already drifting off to sleep. Kirishima dried off his hair with a towel, now that his hands were free. Bakugou tried not to stare at the fact that he had taken off his wet shirt and was standing around shirtless. It was normal for Kirishima to be shirtless most of the time anyway. I mean, he can sleep with me if you want, Kirishima offered. I don't mind, Bakugou said a bit too quickly, the weight against his chest feeling rather comforting, and the way one of those small hands was holding onto his shirt made him hesitate even more. He wasn't sure he would be able to ever place the little boy down ever again. Kirishima smiled fondly at him, taking a couple steps toward him. He's incredible, isn't he? He placed a hand on the baby's back ever so gently. Bakugou's breath hitched at how close Kirishima was to him, and he just hoped that his hammering heart wouldn't wake the kid up. I was just saying that you're such a fucking heavy sleeper. You probably wouldn't wake up if you started crying. Bakugou tried as he took a step back, needing some distance in order to breathe once more. Too close. Way too close. Aw, come on. I'm not that bad. Kirishima laughed. You forgot that I was with you during that last mission in Nara, Red. Bakugou huffed as he made his way out of the bathroom and towards his room. I hadn't slept in 3 days, and I was exhausted, Kirishima defended himself with a groan as he followed. And yet the sound of a collapsing building didn't wake you up. Bakugou chuckled as he reached his room, sitting on the bed with a sigh. And yet you yelling at me to move my fucking ass did the job. Kirishima rolled his eyes, but his smile didn't falter. He stood awkwardly at the door of Bakugou's room, unsure of what to do, unsure if he was allowed further inside. Don't use that type of language around the kid, fucker, Bakugou teased. I was quoting you, so technically it wasn't me, Kirishima said, and his eyes met Bakugou's. They stood in silence for a while, the seconds ticking as they looked at each other. Bakugou's mouth felt dry. Maybe he could ask Kirishima to stay. They could just share the bed? It was big enough for both of them. The kid had his own cot they had gotten while the new crib arrived, and it was just right there next to his bed. That way they could both be here in case the kid needed them. It just made sense, right? It would be so much easier, and Kirishima's room wasn't quite done. It just made sense, right? He just had to... Well, good night, bro, Kirishima said with a smile, waving as he started to walk away. Call me if you need anything. Yeah, will do. Good night, eh? Bakugou said as he watched Kirishima go until he couldn't see him anymore. Bakugou let out a sigh, running a hand through his hair. Fuck. He needed to stop being such a fucking coward. Chapter 4. Baby Protection Squad. Bakugou grumbled as he tried to place a sock on the kid's feet once more, only for the little gremlin to pull his feet away yet again. Will you stop? Bakugou huffed, no real anger in his voice, just frustration. He had been trying to get the kid ready for a couple of minutes, but now the kid found it hilarious to move his feet before Bakugou could even get the sock close to his little foot. A couple of times he had somehow managed to get a sock on one of those feet. The kid would pull it off before he had time to attempt the other foot. The kid would go into a fit of giggles at Bakugou's frustration, making it impossible for him to even be mad. They just didn't have time for this. All right, you little gremlin, stop. We have people coming over, and you are not going to meet them barefoot, Bakugou told him as the kid just smiled up at him from his place on the bed. Stop being so cute. Just stop. What is going on? Kirishima said as he got to the door, trying not to laugh. Bakugou glared and threw the baby's sock at him. You fucking do it. He thinks it's funny when I struggle. Bakugou huffed as he pointed at the kid, who started babbling as soon as he spotted Kirishima at the door, hands outreached towards the redhead. At least the button-down fit him, Kirishima tried. The kid looked rather cute and handsome in his semi-formal getup that Bakugou had picked out. A nice onesie that looked like a button-down red flannel and black pants. It would look even better if he would let me put his shoes on, Bakugou grumbled as he leaned against the wall of the room as Kirishima moved towards the kid while trying to hold back a laugh. What did you do to your dad, Pebble? He started as the kid reached out to him. I'm actually impressed, but maybe you shouldn't make him grumpy before we get visitors. Kirishima chuckled. I would like to see you fucking try, shitty hair. This is bullshit. Bakugou grumbled, earning himself a look from Kirishima. Language, I know, sorry or whatever, Bakugou grumbled. Kirishima let out a sigh before turning back to the kid. All right, let's try this out, he said as he got a sock ready in his hand. The baby lifted his hands up as he babbled, as if trying to tell Kirishima exactly what happened as he slapped the bed with his hands. Really? Did he really? Kirishima said as if he was holding an actual conversation. It took Kirishima one fucking try to put the socks and shoes on as the baby was distracted with his own storytelling. You gotta be kidding me. Bakugou groaned as he picked up the baby with a shit-eating grin. I think you may have tired him out, Kirishima offered before handing the kid over to Bakugou, who went without hesitation. You're so rude, Bakugou said to the kid with a bit of a huff, as a small hand went to his cheek immediately. He gets that from you, Kirishima chuckled. Now, come on, everyone should start arriving soon. Bakugou let out a sigh, his eyes going to the little one that was entertaining himself by playing with the collar of his shirt. You are in for a treat now, kid. Good luck. Time passes. Kirishima moved the baby's playpen to the living room. The room was wide enough to have it near the couch after moving everything a bit more against the wall. It would have to do for now, he thought as Bakugou stepped forward to place the kid inside with a couple of toys. All right, you stay here while we finish getting everything ready, Kirishima told him as they patted the kids' heads. Need to prepare for the idiots, Bakugou exclaimed, earning himself a playful shove from Kirishima. Before either of them could say anything, the doorbell rang. Bakugou couldn't help but feel as if he had saved him from a lecture as he hurried towards the door. He opened the door to find Sero standing there with a grin with a big Doberman at his side, who seemed to be more than excited to come inside. Hey, plain face, Bakugou said as he moved out of the way to let them in. Hey, bro, Sero said as he leaned down to take the dog's leash off, and he rushed inside to find his owner at full speed. Okay, maybe that wasn't the best idea. Bakugou just let out a sigh. It's fine. It was going to happen sooner or later. Puppy Riot! I missed you, he heard Kirishima exclaimed. So, how are you handling the whole situation with the whole... Sero trailed off as he placed his hands in his pocket. Shut it. We can talk later. Not now, Bakugou warned. Where's your girlfriend, or did she finally come to her senses? Mina got stuck doing paperwork, Sero said as he stepped further into the house with an eye roll. She'll come over as soon as she's able to. Bakugou just hummed. At least that meant he could introduce the kid to one person at a time for the most part. He was about to speak when Sero stopped short when they got within view of the living room. Kirishima was sitting on the couch with the baby in his arms as Riot rested his head on Kirishima's knee, sniffing carefully. The baby just stared wide-eyed at the dog, his little hands holding on to Kirishima's tightly. Holy shit, that's an actual fucking baby, Sero gasped. Language, Kirishima told him as a greeting. Oh, is that why Bakugou hasn't cussed me out yet? He joked, moving closer quickly in order to dodge the punch that was sure to come his way. This is insane, Sero said as he got closer, the baby now focusing on him, and said, Hey, little dude, nice to meet you, he said with a small wave. This is Sero, little Pebble. Kirishima said with a soft smile as he stood up with the baby in his arms. Do you guys have a name for him yet? Sero asked as he reached out to hold the baby's arm as a greeting. Not yet, Bakugou said with a huff, crossing his arms. It's harder than we thought, Kirishima explained with a nervous laugh. Trouble finding a name with murder in it, are ya? Sero joked with a short laugh. You're lucky there's a kid in the room right now, soy sauce, Bakugou warned. Besides, give him some credit. Bakugou didn't name his cat anything with murder in it, Kirishima said with a shrug. You're giving him too much credit, Sero said with a knowing look in his eyes directed at Bakugou. Spanish for what was it again? For Albert, Kirishima said with a grin. I thought you helped him pick it out, though. Nope, he did that one all by himself, Sero told him with a grin, getting a glare from Bakugou. Can I carry him? Sero asked, in order to change the topic before he got thrown out. Sure, if you want to, Kirishima said, and Sero reached over to take the baby from Kirishima. The baby stared at Sero for a good 2 seconds before he started crying, screaming bloody murder, twisting and turning to get away, feet kicking as he tried to get away. His hands reached out for Bakugou, who was close by, as if asking for help. I'm here, kid. It's all right, Bakugou says as he took the baby, who didn't waste any time burying his head in Bakugou's chest as he sobbed, hands holding tightly onto his shirt. Bakugou rubbed the baby's back, trying to soothe him. He's just not used to people yet, Bakugou said instead. It's cool. I understand. I got the details of what. I won't blame him for being apprehensive, Sero said as he rubbed the back of his neck. Kirishima nodded, sitting on the sofa with a nervous expression on his face. Maybe we did this too soon. Hey, he needs to be around people, Bakugou told him with a sigh as he continued to try to calm the baby down. There is no other way for him to get used to others. And I'm fine in waiting for him to warm up to me, Sero told them. Don't worry, little guy. One day we'll be able to go out and get ice cream together and do all the fun stuff that these two won't let you do. You are never babysitting, Bakugou responded without hesitation, and Kirishima smiled. Time passes. Kaminari and Shinso arrived shortly after with Alberto, looking annoyed at the fact that he was in a cat carrier. The black cat's eyes were wide as he waited for someone to let him out. Hey guys, hi Al, Bakugou said as he went over to take his cat from his friend. Thanks for watching him, Shinso. Hope he wasn't too much of a little shit. Less so than the owner, Shinso responded with a smug grin. Very funny, Bakugou said as he went to open the carrier, just for Owl to rush off somewhere else without a glance back. Nice to see you too, Bakugou mumbled. All right, I'm here to meet my godson, so if you excuse me, Denki told them as he made his way to the living room. Where's the little menace? He called out as Shinso and Bakugou followed. He knows he's not actually the godfather, right? Bakugou questioned Shinso in an almost whisper. Let him down easy when you tell him. I'm going to have to hear all of his complaints about it, Shinso told him. You're the one that decided to date him, Bakugou mumbled. Shinso shrugged. He grew on me. He's adorable, Kaminari exclaimed as he saw the baby. The kid was staring at Kaminari wide-eyed, holding on to Kirishima tightly, as if afraid of a repeat of what happened before with Sero. Just give him some space, Denki, Sero warned. He's just getting used to having people around, Kirishima added. Wow, he really does look like you two, Shinso said as he went to stand next to his boyfriend in case he needed to pull him away from the kid. Bakugou grinned, his eyes meeting Kirishima, who was smiling at the words, a warm feeling in his chest as they looked at each other for maybe a second too long, a second that made Bakugou's breath hitch once Kirishima finally looked away. He was making his way past Kaminari, hoping to be able to sit next to Kirishima. Kirishima was sitting on the sofa, wide-eyed, baby against his chest, as he tried to understand who these people were. Eyes darted from Sero, sitting a couple of feet away, to the two new arrivals who were standing a couple of feet away, and then to Bakugou, as if making sure he was still there. Nah, Kaminari said suddenly. This kid is too cute to have Bakugou's DNA. Not even a second later, Bakugou's hand was on Kaminari's face, letting off a smaller explosion than he would usually make, simply because he didn't want the sound to scare his kid. Watch it, dunce face. Before anyone could respond, the room was filled with laughter. The baby was laughing as if he had just witnessed the funniest thing in the world, making all eyes go to him as he giggled brightly and was full of glee. His hold on Kirishima loosened, and he started to look a bit more like the cheerful baby Bakugou knew he was. Never mind, Kaminari said as he rubbed his face. That's definitely Bakugou's kid. Time passes. Eijirou arrived with a gift in hand, just passing it over to Bakugou as she made her way right to the living room without a word. Nice to see you too, Bakugou mumbled. Not here to see you today, Eijirou replied. Oh, he's so cute, she gasped, going to sit down next to Kirishima so that she could be close to the kid. Hi, little guy, Eijirou gushed. We are all going to be ignored then. Got it, Sero chuckled. That's for sure. I have a new favorite toy, and all of you can't compare to him. Just look at him. He already has you all beat in the looks department, Eijirou told them as she waved at the baby and started making faces at him. And I thought I was your favorite boy, Kaminari pouted. Shinso, actually, Eijirou corrected. Sorry you lost your place, mind Jack, Eijirou added. I feel betrayed, Kaminari huffed. You're the one that kept trying to get with her even after she told you she was gay, Shinso shrugged. Anyway, thanks for coming, Eijirou. Momo couldn't make it? Kirishima asked. She's on a mission, but she said she'll try to visit soon and to send lots of pictures, Eijirou said with a smile, already taking out her phone. What are these, earlobes? Bakugou said as he looked in the gift bag. The gift of some music, some CDs with music that's supposed to be helpful for soothing and development, Eijirou told him. You know, some Mozart and some other classical music, but then there's also some children's songs and other things that I thought you guys may need. Kirishima smiled brightly. Thank you so much, Eijirou. I'm sure there's going to be something in there that he'll like. Is this punk versions of kids' songs? Bakugou asked, holding up a CD with a raised eyebrow. You guys should enjoy it too, right? Eijirou said with a smirk. Time passes. They were all sitting around the living room talking, the topic jumping from work to their everyday lives. The more they talked and laughed together, the more it seemed the kid got comfortable being around so many people. He started reaching out for the toys the others offered, and even though he was still holding on to Kirishima or Bakugou, he was interacting a bit more. Kirishima smiled fondly at the progress the kid was having, even if he had to stop Bakugou from exploding Kaminari's face just to see if it would make the baby laugh again. Bakugou was sitting next to Kirishima now, a hand outstretched in front of the baby, who was holding on to it and slapping it as he babbled to himself as if having a whole conversation. The redhead couldn't help but feel as if they were a family, a small family surrounded by their friends as they introduced their son to them. It's not like that at all, a voice in the back of Kirishima's head reminded him. They were only doing this because the little pebble needed them, which wasn't necessarily bad, but he knew it was going to only get harder to resist the urge to reach out to Bakugou in a way that wasn't platonic, a way that would cross the line and destroy this little family of theirs they were forming, this little bubble that their kid needed more than anything right now. Mina's here, Sero exclaimed as he read a message on his phone, heading to open the door for his girlfriend with a smile on his face. It didn't take long until they heard Ashido's voice. Where is he? Where is the little bundle of joy I need to spoil rotten? She walked into the room with her arms full of shopping bags, letting out an excited gasp as soon as her eyes fell on the kid. Mina, what did you do? Kirishima asked, eyes wide. Kiri, babe, I'm making sure the little angel has everything he will ever want, she said as she let the bags drop. Oh, and I have a little something for everyone. But first, let me see that baby, she said as she went directly for the kid. Oi, Pinky, he's not good with strangers, Bakugou warned. Ashido reached out for the baby, not making a grab for him, just holding her hands out towards him. The kid eyed her cautiously, his red eyes looking at her so carefully Kirishima could see just how much he was like Bakugou at that very moment, calculating if it was worth the risk. After a couple seconds, he leaned towards Ashido, letting her pick him up, and she let out a delighted short laugh. That is so not fair, Sero grumbled. I carried him for a second and he started crying. Too bad, babe. Guess he likes me better, Ashido said as she smiled at the baby, who was trying to reach for her horns. Isn't that right, my angel? She cooed. It's because she got here when he was already used to all of us, Shinso tried to explain. Bribery. I think the kid knows what bribery is, Denki suggested. Your guess is as good as any, Jiro said with a sigh. I'm next, though, she said, pointing at everyone, as if waiting for them to challenge her. Before that, Ashido said as she turned towards Sarah's. Babe, can you open that bag right there? She said as she pointed at as best she could with the baby in her arms. Yes, mi cielo, Sero said as he did as he was told. As soon as he looked inside, he started laughing. No way. I thought you were joking about this, Sero grinned. You know I don't joke about this type of stuff, Ashido told him with a wink. There is one for everyone, she told him, making everyone else look at her with even more curiosity. Sero didn't hesitate. He pulled a t-shirt from the bag and held it up for everyone to see. These are amazing. The shirt was black with white letters across the chest that read Baby Protection Squad. There was an image underneath, a mix of Bakugou's and Kirishima's hero symbols in their signature colors, respectively. Raccoon eyes, we're literally trying to keep this quiet, Bakugou grumbled before he could finish, most of the group rushing over for their own shirt. Don't worry, Bako babe, I made them myself. No one knows about these but us, Mina explained. These are awesome, Jiro explained. Dark sunglasses, and we totally look like bodyguards, Denki said, as he held out his own shirt to inspect it. You guys can't wear those yet, Kirishima warned. If the Hero Commission thinks we are going public, they might try to take him away and deny the whole thing. They wouldn't dare, Sero exclaimed, but his face didn't look quite so sure. They all knew very well what the Hero Commission was capable of. Ashido's grip around the baby tightened slightly. We're trying to find a new way to let it leak or something without them knowing it was us, Bakugou explained. Once that happens, they'll have no option but to let us come up with our own cover story. It's not exactly a perfect plan yet, Kirishima admitted. We just need to make sure we have something. Let us know if you need anything, okay? Ashido said with no hesitation. That goes for all of us, Shinso chimed in. Kirishima smiled. Those shirts are going to come in useful for sure. Anytime. Time to open gifts from Auntie Mina, Ashido exclaimed as she took the baby towards the shopping bags that she had left on the floor. Bakugou let out a sigh, letting his head fall back against the sofa as Kirishima watched him carefully. You all right, cats? Kirishima asked, a hand finding its way on top of Bakugou's absent-mindedly. Just a lot. I'll be fine, Bakugou assured him as their eyes met. Everyone else was distracted, going through the bags and showing the baby what was inside, in turns as they joked around and talked. Ashido made sure the kid didn't feel too overwhelmed by staying a good distance away, but close enough for him to see everything that was going on. He babbled at all of them as he watched with clear curiosity. Are you okay with all of this? This whole situation? Bakugou asked suddenly, catching Kirishima by surprise. Kirishima wasn't sure where that question came from, but he knew there was something heavy underneath that they would have to discuss later. His hand squeezed Bakugou's underneath it before confidently saying, More than okay. Bakugou stared at him, eyes searching, his mouth opened slightly, just to close it as quickly before giving Kirishima a nod. I'm going to make sure Pinky doesn't steal our kid, he said as Bakugou pulled his hand away, but not before giving Kirishima a strong squeeze. Kirishima felt his heart beating loudly against his ears. He took a small, shaky breath. He stood up to follow, hoping his smile didn't look fake as he tried to push down a blush. He needed to do a better job of hiding his feelings if this was all going to work out after all. I want to read a little note at the end. Alboroto means riot in Spanish. That was just a little note that the author put at the end. So, like, Bakugou named his cat after Kirishima and not Albert. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed chapters 3 and 4. I hope you guys will be back for the next video for chapters 5 and 6. And if you are, I'll see you next time.